Going back to the top of this page in our camera API, we have this note which tells us this camera API is deprecated, and it provides us using CameraX and camera zoom. So it's open CameraX here, camera 2, and just close, just made which replaces just the camera class. So it's basically an update for this camera, and it provides us with camera manager, instance, and camera devices, and so on. But it's just simple class, like just overcome which updates the camera API, which was previously being used, and just some information about how can you use this camera to class in your app, which isn't really what we are gonna use, because those are just information, and we want to use some details and some cool features of our camera, and one API that provides us is CameraX. CameraX is a library provided in Jetpack library. It helps in making camera app development easier. So Google recommended it, and I recommend watching this 2-minute video. It just tell you some brief about how the CameraX work, and this is a really good video, about 10 minutes, I think 15 minutes, just explaining how can you make your own camera. So let's start by explaining how can we use a CameraX in our app. In order to use CameraX, we have some conditions that we need to fulfill. There are use cases which you are required to provide. The easiest use case is just a preview, and another one is image analysis. Preview is just for displaying an image, and for image analysis, for example, if you want to use a machine learning model to analyze what's being visible on this image, which is called the preview, so you need an image analysis use case. If you want to save images, you might have an image capture use case. For video and audio, video capture use case. So each of them is a use case. Alright, so now CameraX provides a consistency across devices because Google already has tested it and variety of ranges of our apps, so you don't really need to have implementation test. You don't need to implement a test cases for handling like orientation changes and so on, because Google provides that for you. So don't really need to care about testing of how can CameraX work. Also, CameraX has its extension APIs, which usually CameraX is just simple API for use cases. But if you want to take deep dive into how can you work with the camera, you will probably have an interface which is called create a camera extension interface, which you communicate through CameraX extension API, which you can communicate through CameraX app. So, and when you reach for camera extension interface, you can directly access the manufacturer component, which is the camera. Alright, so, and this is just some couple of details. If you want to read it more, if you want to deep dive in this kind of components and how can you use the deep dive in camera. And also, by the way, it's being used camera 2. It's not using camera 1 because camera 1 is depreciated. So now we're done with camera extension, and this is just an example. Like if you want to have high dynamic range like HDR or night mode retouching, many features. Like if you want to have some kind of in-depth feature using CameraX extension API. Alright, so now that's basically an introduction to CameraX, and we'll see how it's being structured so we can use it later on in our app.